Okay, so this case note is what Suzy's written to the children as a kind of introductory note about her to them to read, when they're older. Writing parts of the file to the child is a relatively recent development in case notes. Later life letters have been around for ages for children in long-term foster care and adoption. Writing case notes to the child encourages the social worker to remember that the child may be reading these records down the track, and to ensure that the social worker writes in a way which they'd want the child to read. For the child reading the file 20 years later, it's intended to help them understand that the social worker was thinking about them and their well-being, even if they were too young to understand what was happening at the time. Now, these are good and important things to strive for in your case recording. And writing to the child is a fantastic idea, and it can honestly be really amazing to read when it's used well. And when it is used well, it's personal, it's touching, it shows care and real investment in the child and their well-being. On the other hand, when it's used badly, it can be worse than not using it at all. I've read files where it came across like the worker was actually blaming the child for what was going on. The sort of thing, dear child, you were addicted to drugs when you were born, and your mother was unable to look after a baby with such complex needs. So we had to put you in a foster care with someone who knows how to deal with babies like you. That sort of thing. Writing to the child in and of itself doesn't make your files more personable to the child. It still has to be done in the right way. Writing to the child is not, at least in my opinion, about making everything you write in the file a letter to the child. My personal view is that's inappropriate for a whole bunch of reasons that I'll talk about in greater length at some other time when I found my soapbox. But the point of writing to the child is to make the file as a whole something that will give the child later in life the information that will answer any questions that they have in a way that shows you, the writer, were thinking about that moment when they pick up their file. Some of that includes writing directly to the child. Some of it is about writing your notes in a way that will help them be understood on their own, so not using acronyms or jargons or assuming that someone will know what the water project is as a local organisation without explaining who they are and what they do. Some of it will be explaining processes and decisions clearly. Some of it will be explaining why things didn't happen the way that you'd hoped. Some of it will be clarifying that certain information may have been redacted so that they won't be able to read everything in their file. So writing to the child is something that has a purpose. It is not something that you just do. If you treat it as something that you just do, then you don't put thought into it and it reads as insincere and impersonal. Now, I know some people have different views to me about this, and that's absolutely valid. I'm not saying that I'm definitely right on this and that others are definitely wrong. I'm only telling you my views based on the experiences that I've had auditing hundreds of cases. If some people are able to write the whole file to the child and successfully avoid tricky bits around confidentiality and steering clear of using cliched phrases that seem inauthentic, then all power to them. Their families are lucky to have them. My experience, however, is that most workers can't write like that. I certainly can't. And so I'm looking to show how the average social worker can achieve the best of both worlds. Good recording and direct engagement with the child reading the file years down the track. So my main advice is to save it up for the times when it's most important. Then you can put a lot of thought and warmth into it and make sure it says what you want it to. And that's what we're doing here. This is a brief letter of introduction from Suzy to Johnny and Tara. In this letter, Suzy explains who she is, why she's involved, and what she's going to be doing. She acknowledges that some of the file may be difficult to read and why she's chosen to write it in that way. She signs off with genuine warmth for the children and their future. So by doing this, having this on the file, this is probably going to be one of the first things that the children see when they get given a copy of their file. And so having this on there will hopefully be a sign that the rest of the file is written up in a way that is for them to read, even if not every single piece of it is written directly to them.